I went from praying somebody would buy and not ever knowing where my next client was going to come from to fully booked out and having six-figure launches. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 big moves I made to go from posting and praying to fully booked. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jana Nixa. I am the Authentic Sales Coach. I work with coaches, consultants, and service-based entrepreneurs who want to get more high-ticket clients, who want to attract more premium buyers, and want to have more of a systematic, predictable, consistent way of getting high-ticket clients. A little bit about my background. I spent over 2 decades as a top-performing sales executive, and one of the things that I learned is the traditional sales approach is dead. It doesn't work for most people. It's very masculine, and there's an entirely different way for you to set up your business and your sales process where you don't have to feel pushy, manipulative, anything of the sort. In fact, I believe selling is sacred. So we're going to talk about it in this video. But before we do, please like and subscribe and share this with a fellow coach of yours who is really having trouble trying to put all the pieces together, because I'm going to do it right now. What took me from just kind of getting clients here, there, and everywhere and not really having any sort of system in place to having a finely well-oiled machine, it's all about these 3 things. And I cannot stress enough how powerful it is to have a process in place so that you're not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best and relying on the algorithms to find your clients for you. If there's anything I know about building a successful business, it's we have to own what we can control. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. One very common mistake I see people making is they create the offer, especially high ticket, because that's what I very much focus on with my clients, because I believe it is the fastest way for you to get to 6 figures and beyond. Before I even get into high ticket, let me put your mind at ease. Anyone that's created a business around their genius zone, a transformation that you offer, something that you've either solved for others or for yourself, you absolutely have a high ticket offer. So don't even listen to that little gremlin in your head that says, I don't know if I'm worth high ticket. You absolutely are. It's all about understanding A, how to own it, and B, how to position it. First things first, your offer needs to be something that your ideal client wants and is willing to invest in. Needs to solve a particular challenge or problem. And what I see a lot of people doing, particularly those who are more in the energetic space, in the spirituality space, even in the mindset space, is you're creating the offer you want to teach and not the offer through the lens that the ideal client wants to buy. Now, when I say this, that doesn't mean, oh my God, everything changes. No, absolutely not. What I like to tell my clients is the inside of your store stays the same. If you think about focusing on the window dressing, right? The inside of the store doesn't change, but whatever we put in that front store window is what's going to draw in our ideal client. And so if you're like some of my clients and you're thinking, but I can do all these different things. And that's okay. You absolutely can. Nothing about your process has to change. You just have to switch out depending on which offer you're focusing on for the quarter or for 6 months or even a year, whatever it may be. You just change out the window dressing. But what I see a lot of clients doing at first, especially, is they're so afraid that they're going to miss out. They don't do anything with the window dressing and they put stuff in there that really doesn't speak to anyone. And it actually only speaks to other people who do a lot of the same kind of work that they do. And so they're like, but I'm getting likes and I'm comments. I'm like, but are these from your ideal client? Are these people booking calls with you? And so it's really, really important in this step 1 that we get really, really clear and honest with ourselves about how we are creating this offer. Because if you want your ideal client to say yes, then we have to make sure it's the WIFT. What's WIIFT, the WINF? What's in it for them? Again, don't worry. You don't have to worry about the inside of your store. That's all going to stay intact. But the window dressing, based on the offer you're presenting, has to be through a certain angle, a specific problem that you're solving, a challenge that your ideal client has that they are willing to invest in. Spoiler alert, most people are not willing to invest in straight up mindset work, inner child work, soul work. I know what you've been thinking. If you've been through that transformation, you're like, but how? They're not interested in buying self-love, peace, even authenticity. They don't understand the value of that. The only people that understand the value of that and the ones that are probably commenting and going, awesome post on your content are those who've been through the transformation that you offer. They see the value in it because they've been through it. But it's kind of like having kids. You don't know what you don't know. And so it's up to you as the business owner to help translate the front store window into what your ideal client thinks the problem is and what they believe will solve it. In other words, no technobabble, no fancy talk, no fancy soul talk, self-love, all of that kind of stuff. They don't get at this point. But here's what they do get. Humans want to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So what are they wanting to stop in their life? Or what are they wanting more of? Maybe they want more energy. They want to stop drinking. Maybe they want more sleep and they want to stop fighting with their spouse. All of these kind of things, it's that 3D tangible stuff that gets people to buy. Listen, I am all about mixing the woo and the do. And I hope that there's a day, and I believe there is, where people can see the value in more of the 5D languaging and what that's going to bring. The most people, the ones you want to help and the ones that are going to transform the most, are not there yet. As somebody that's been on my spiritual journey and personal development for 12 years now, I just did a healing session earlier this week, right? But I am not here to spend 10K, 20K, even 5K on that type of offer at this point in my journey, right? Maybe I need a tune-up. But what would I have spent that type of money on before? Things like how to be a better mom, how to lose the baby weight, how to balance my hormones naturally. Do you see, like, it's these 3D tangible problems that really catch people's attention. If you think about even my channel, like, I'm talking about you having a successful business. I'm giving you the tactics and the strategy. That's what you want, even though you know deep down that that's only a piece of it, right? But if I sat on here all day long and talked only about mindset, you'd be like, yeah, I already know that, right? You and I both know that that's true. So we start with a high ticket offer that your ideal client wants and is willing to invest in. That is so key. Now, how do you go about doing this? There's several different things. We actually do a lot of this in our Get Clients Bootcamp. We do this in our challenges, and that is we teach people how to really validate their offer and its level of interest in the marketplace. And so there's a really specific process. If you want to go deeper, check out the description for when we have our next event. But for now, what I'm going to tell you is definitely want to verify it based on who else is serving your ideal client right now and is actually selling, right? They're being successful in the space that you want to be in. So I'll just leave it at that because it's quite a can of worms. Bottom line, there are ways to know for sure whether or not your offer is going to sell. We don't just have to come out there and just randomly throw spaghetti against the wall. Step 2 is your ability, and it really does build from all the work you do in step 1, and that is your ability to communicate about it. So many entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, they miss this. They are speaking Chinese when their ideal client is speaking French. And I'll even have clients say, but I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to be like everybody else. And it's like, nobody's asking you to be like everybody else. I'm just telling you, if you're speaking Chinese, you've got to speak French to your ideal client. You really have to speak to their movie scene. What do I mean by that? Again, like I was saying before in the offer, like they don't really understand like the soul talk, the inner healing and the mother wound, and even mindset for a lot of us is still too abstract of a concept, and they can't quite connect the dots as to how that's going to solve their problem. So what you want to do instead is speak to the problem they think they have and give them more insight around maybe why that's not the case. I call this conversion content. Once you have them going, oh, I see, there's more to this than that. I understand. Thank you so much. Now I have a different perspective, right? Then you're creating content around what they think the answer is and how maybe that may be the answer, but more than likely it's not. Because if they actually knew what the answer was, they would have already done it. Educating more around the solution, right? So it's called problem awareness, solution awareness. And when you can warm somebody up in that way, help them have those aha moments, give them more insight, at the same time, you're really making a case for why your offer is the best fit, but you say it without saying it. And again, we go deeper into this inside some of my programs because it is quite a concept, but you're not just out there like, and you got to buy my offer because that's why, we don't directly say that. But look at it like this. What do they need to believe in order to see your offer as the right fit for them? And so all of your content should center around that in one way or another. That's why we want to educate them more about their problem and why maybe there's more to the problem than they think. And then we want to educate them more around the solution and why their solution is something maybe they haven't considered, or maybe why they haven't gotten the results they wanted in the past is because of X, Y, and Z. And guess what? X, Y, and Z is inside your offer. And when you can do that, you're essentially leading them back to your offer and inserting yourself into the solution. And what a lot of people do is they just kind of post and pray. They create content with tips and just sort of nice to have kind of stuff, but it doesn't lead them through the customer buying journey. But when it's done in this way, people are like, I need to know more, which is why at the end of that kind of content, after you've built your credibility, you've built your authority, and you're doing that through the content that I was just speaking about, you invite them to a call. And I can promise you, if they're not getting on a call with you right now, it's because you haven't done a good enough job of showing them how you can help them. It's as simple as that. It's not the algorithm. It's not anything other than either you're not clear on the transformation and the challenge and how it shows up in their everyday life and what they think the problem is and what they think the solution is, or you're clear about it, but your ability to effectively communicate about it is lacking. And so again, it goes back to, am I speaking Chinese when they're speaking French? And how do you close that gap so that your ideal client is like, oh my gosh, do you know how many times I get messages like, you're inside my head? Oh my gosh. That's where you want to be. Okay. And there's all sorts of different ways to do this. This doesn't just have to be like taking shots in the dark, but that is where you want to be. You want to enter the conversation that's going on in their head. And the better you do that, I can absolutely promise you with 100% certainty that your ideal client will book a call with you. Because ultimately, think about you. Don't you want your problem solved? They do too. And then the last one is the simple sales process and how to convert them on a call. So many of my clients come to me. They're doing a pretty good job of actually getting people to book the call. They're not able to effectively communicate with them on the call. Just a few things to consider here. If you think back to what I said at the beginning, there's an entirely different way to sell. No bro, no push, no manipulation. And if you can really hold space, be a neutral advisor, think of it like going to a doctor's appointment. They're like, so what brings you in today? There's no hidden agenda. There's no manipulation there. Like they genuinely want to know. Well, I know their bedside manner's not always the best as an example, but think of one that is, right? They're genuinely interested in what's going on, what you've tried, what you think would work. Why you think you are where you are, what would you like instead? Like all of these questions, and all you're doing is listening. It'd kind of be like if you're talking with a good friend of yours and she like comes to you and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting divorced. I'm leaving my husband. And as far as you knew, like they were great. So you'd be like, wait, what? Time out. What's happening? What is going on? Right? Like you wouldn't be trying to get her to go one way or another, right? You would just be like, I need to understand what made you get to this conclusion. And so that's like the bulk of the call. And then in permission-based authentic sales, we ask permission. Would you like to hear how I support people with this process? And then you take everything that you have learned throughout that call and you marry it to your offer in the same sort of way that you do that with your content. It's not about having a script. What scripts do is put other people's words in your mouth and make you get all up in your head, where what you really need to be is listening and in your heart and in your body. Because if you can't stay present with that person, and if you're up here like trying to get it right, this didn't go well, and the gremlin in your head is like wreaking havoc, then you're going to lose focus. You're going to start getting into that fight or flight, and the person on the other side of the call is going to pick up on that. So it's not just about holding space. It's not just about walking them through this process. It's also understanding how to hold the your nervous system regulation so that you don't get the best of yourself on the sales call. When those 3 pieces are done, I can promise you, that's why people inside my programs get such great results. We don't just work on like a strategy. Like, notice I didn't say like, get everybody into Facebook, or they have to all attend this thing, or they have to go to, it's not about that. It's about having an offer they want to buy. It's about learning how to effectively communicate about it. And it's about helping them and guiding them through an important decision-making process where they're making a decision they already desire to make. They're not just on this call for the heck of it. They want that problem solved. So don't forget that. But when those 3 things are done well, I don't care what strategy you apply to it. As you develop those 3 skill sets, you will get clients consistently. The only thing that will stop you is not truly going for it in any of these areas, because these areas are skill sets, and it's kind of like learning to swim, right? You have to get in the water. You can read about it, you can watch about it all day long, but until you are getting in the water and you start floating and paddling and kicking and feeling yourself in the moments, it's really difficult to learn. It's learning through implementation and integration and feedback. And that's what coaching and why it's so helpful to have that support to help you get through that process as quickly as possible and not get stuck. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, again, give it a like, follow along for more. I come on here at least every week with a new video, as well as my podcast. If you would like to go deeper into any of these topics, I have a lot of different free resources in the description, as well as you can get on the waiting list for our next event where we go way into each and every one of these concepts in great detail. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next